Hello, beautiful fellow human light beings. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the Thunder Wizard channel. Today we're going to be talking about how we are going to create the new 5D Earth together. We're going to do that through group intention to destroy the third dimension and manifest the fifth dimension. Because as you can see tattooed on my forehead there, 3D and 5D cannot share space in your mind. Hello and welcome back to the channel. So the world is shifting. Everything is changing. Nothing is going to be the same. I'm now back in the United States and I'm here and seeing and feeling it. The United States is going through huge transformations, and it is, I won't lie to you, it's quite unnerving. But the good news is that for the past 2 years, I have been working directly with higher dimensional beings. As you know, 2 years ago, here in this very same house, June of 2022, I did what is called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind Protocols, or CE5. Go ahead and don't ask me what it is. Google it if you don't know. And I deliberately sought out to make contact with higher dimensional extraterrestrial beings. I didn't know that they existed. I didn't know if they did or not, but I was determined if they did, I was going to make contact. And sure enough, I did. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Because the world that I live in now, the reality that I know to be true now, is completely opposite from everything I thought. Completely, totally upside down. And that's the bottom line, is that the third dimension is that we live in a completely upside down, bizarro world. So everything that we think is reality is not. You believe that you're isolated, that you're isolated within your brain pan, and only you can feel your feelings and see feel your thoughts, and that you don't have connection with anything else. You believe that you are going to physically die, and you believe that we live in an empty, cold, cruel universe. You believe all of those things because that's your third dimensional experience. I have the same experience. I know exactly what that feels like. So everything that we've come to believe to be true, including the religions and the spiritual paths that we have created, reflect our experience of the third dimension, which actually turns out to be completely, totally inaccurate. The truth is the complete opposite of your experience. The truth is that every conscious being is connected to every other conscious being in the multiverse. It is also true that all consciousness loves and takes care of every other conscious being in existence. The only places that this doesn't happen is in the third dimension or below. And bear in mind, the third dimension is very far down on the dimensional scale. It's like the outskirts of reality. The reason why we look out through our telescopes and we look out into outer space in the third dimension and we don't see any other life is because third dimension, there's not a whole lot of life in the third dimension. It's a tiny little place. It's sort of like, you live in the city and you go further out in the outskirts, and then, there's the last couple stretch of houses, and then beyond that, it's just empty desert or, something. There's nobody outside of the outskirts. Well, the third dimension is sort of like that gas station in the middle of the desert where there's 4 or 5 houses, and it's 100 miles to the next city and 100 miles from where you came from. That's the third dimension. The third dimension is this tiny little outpost, completely separate from everything and everywhere else. And so the experience you have that there's not a whole lot of life, that we live in this empty, cold, cruel universe, it's because we're living in the complete outskirts of manifested reality. And the truth of the matter is that where most conscious beings reside is in the fifth dimension and above. And once you get to the fifth dimension and above, you have connection to everything else. You have conscious connection to everything and everybody. You are loved completely. You are accepted completely without condition. Just because you exist, everything loves you and supports you and is your family member and nurtures you and cares for you. There's no such thing as poverty or exclusion or cruelty or anything like that outside of the third dimension. Now, you don't know that because you've been a third dimensional being your whole third dimensional life, so you don't know that. So it only makes sense that you would think that there are things like evil archons outside of the third dimension that want to trap you into reincarnating. It's only natural you would think that because that's a projection of your third dimensional experience. Now, I wouldn't have known any of these things had I not reached out to connect with beings beyond the third dimension, and to my absolute shock and amazement, these beings not only exist, but they were extremely happy to connect with me. And I have been having daily interactions with them for 2 years now. And if you do these interdimensional, live guided interdimensional meditations that we do on this channel for free twice a week, it's very likely that you can have that same experience. So now that I'm in a completely different reality and things are very, very different from anything I could have possibly imagined, now that that is going on, I've learned that reality does not function at all the way that I thought. Because the way that I thought was that I had to compromise my desires, my beliefs, my integrity just to live. This third dimensional world that we live in is run by dark force psychopaths who want you to believe that you are alone, that you are isolated, and that you don't have any value and you don't have any worth. And that you don't have the ability to change your reality. That people with more money or more power have the ability to determine for you the life that you have to live. And higher dimensional beings have proven to me in many different ways that not only is that not true, but the moment that we decide that we're going to change this reality, nothing can stop us. And so we're going to be talking about that today. Before we do that, if you're new to the channel, here's what I need from you. First thing I need you to do is subscribe, like, comment, hit the bell button so you can be notified whenever I upload a video or go live. Do the live interdimensional meditations as often as possible. We're doing them at least twice a week. I'm going to do another one tomorrow on Wednesday. And then we do definitely every Saturday night we do one. Show up to those, do those with us. If you can do it live, great. If not, go and watch the recorded version as soon as you can. Do them as often as possible. Don't just do it once and stop. It has to be done over and over again for it to really take hold. Follow and like the Path of the Thunder Wizard on Facebook. Share Thunder Wizard YouTube videos, links, and Facebook posts on your social media. Subscribe to the thunderwizard.com Patreon site. And look, this is what allows me to do this. I'm not going to belabor the point, but without your support, I can't keep this channel running. In fact, I'm going to have to take another side hustle as we speak, because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills and pay rent and, like everybody else. As long as we're in 3D, I still have to survive. So if you want me to keep doing this channel and upload videos every day and do all the stuff that I'm doing, I need your support. And if you go to thunderwizard.com, you can subscribe at multiple levels. But if you don't want any of the stuff, the subscriptions like the 90-day challenge, or if you don't want to be part of the live Zoom class and discussion group, which is one of the subscription levels, if you don't want that, real simple, all you do is you go and subscribe at the Fan of the Thunder Wizard page level, which is just a few bucks every month. There's 500 people on there subscribed. 450 of them are free subscribers, which does nothing for me or for them. But if it's just about subscribing to say thanks, subscribe at that level where you give a few bucks, because if every single person that's subscribed to the thunderwizard.com website, not the YouTube channel, but just the website. If everybody that was subscribed to that was just given a few bucks a month in their subscription, I would never have to worry about rent or money ever again. So I need your help. So I just want to remind you that I do need your help, and without you, I can't keep this channel going. All right, so back to where we are. So how are we going to create this new 5D together? Especially understanding the reality that 3D and 5D cannot share space in your mind. First thing you have to do is question your reality. The people that I see in my life who are miserable, especially as we're getting hit with this solar flash event and the pressure on the psyche to shift and die to the third dimension is getting so much stronger. People are starting to come apart at the seams. And the people who are having the biggest problem are the people who don't question their reality. Question everything you think is true about. I mean, constantly question. Because what I've found out with my interdimensional interactions is that nothing is at all, that my reality is nothing like what it seemed. Everything that I thought, I mean literally everything that I thought was true except for a few things, it turns out is not true. And so questioning your reality, instead of questioning your sanity, those are going to be the two choices you have. You're going to either question your sanity or you're going to question your reality. Question your reality and then change it. Give yourself the permission to change the laws of reality. So question your reality and then change it. Light beings have told me that I have the power to bring the 5D ascension. Now, I had to really question my reality to believe that. So I now am coming to accept that that may very well be true. Everybody's got their own purpose in this reality. That, I believe, is mine. But the caveat to all of it is that I need your help to do it. That if we come together and if we make the decision together specifically to do these live guided interdimensional meditations, if we do that, we will bring the fifth dimension. But there's some mentalities that we're going to need. You don't have to be perfect about this, but these are things to shoot for. So we're going to be talking about that, which is how we replace the third dimension with 5D Earth. So the first thing right at the top, we decide exactly and completely what our perfect world without compromise is. No compromise. You know, right now I'm struggling with the feeling of if I just had this amount of money, I'd be okay. But when I thought that through, I realized that if I did have X amount of money, I wouldn't be okay. Because if I had X amount of money to pay off these bills and pay off these debts and, you know, live in this comfortable lifestyle that I'm used to living in, if that's all that I had, the truth is that the dark forces would still be manipulating, destroying, devouring, and harming everybody. And so it wouldn't be okay. And not only would it not be okay, but eventually what's happening is that everybody's safety is being eroded. And I want you to take a look at this. You know, having been outside of the United States now, you know, total for 4.5 years. You know, I was back here for 1 year and went back to Australia again. And so the amount of time I've been outside of the U.S. has been about 4.5 years. And in those 4.5 years, everything has changed. And I'm really grateful that I was outside of the U.S. to see it, because when you're here, it happens incrementally. So it happens very fast. You lose your reality and your safety and your comfort very fast, and your reality shifts, but it happens incrementally, and it's happening in ways that really threaten your safety. And when you're in a state of survival, you focus on yourself, number one, and number two, you lose your ability to think objectively, so you don't really take into account, hey, hang on, this is something that's being done system-wide. This is a strategy. You know, the whole housing crisis. There's no housing crisis. It is completely, totally made up. What's happening is that BlackRock and other large corporate structures are buying up. They're taking their tremendous wealth and they're buying up all of the land and all of the real estate, and then they're turning around and selling it at exaggerated prices. And so you have people at the same time who are getting paid less and less money, and housing prices are going up. Now, if this were, just everybody were regular homeowners, like if all the houses and properties were owned just by average individuals, that wouldn't happen because they'd really want to sell their property. So they're going to look for people. Instead, what we've got is we've got tons of houses that are empty, that aren't being sold because they're too expensive, and the average person doesn't have enough money to purchase a house, which means they have to rent or live in their car, which is a lot of people are doing that. And I'm here to tell you this is done deliberately. It's a deliberate, it's not done by one person, it's done by the huge conglomerate of, banking consortiums and, BlackRock, corporate, it's being done on purpose, because when you don't have power, you can be controlled. And when you can be controlled, you'll do whatever people tell you. And when you do whatever people tell you, then the elites get to live out their narcissistic fantasies. So it's very important that you be able to see that that's happening. So when I say that you decide exactly and completely your perfect world without compromise, notice how your desires have been compromised. Again, I'm experiencing that now because my perfect reality is what I had, just a month ago. The house I was living in was perfect. The location was perfect. It was the perfect place, the perfect reality. There's no other place in the world I want to be. Now that I've been forced to come back here because Australia kicked me out, I know what it's like not to have my perfect reality. Now I can compromise and I can find ways to have a lot of some of the similar things, but I can't get out of my mind that this isn't what I want. It's just the reality of it. So I have two choices. I can either compromise and say this is just how life is, because unless the law changes, there's no way for me to go back to Australia and live there. It's just not possible. They don't want a 60-year-old man living there, who's not a citizen. They just outright, it's just very clear, they don't want it. They're not going to legislate that. So I don't have any choice. I can't go back there unless I want to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars just to go and stay there for a few months, and haven't yet come across that kind of money. So I have to learn to compromise. And I'm really aware that that's completely antithetical to what I've been told over the past couple of years. Higher dimensional beings have said the opposite. They've said, think of the perfect reality. Manifest the perfect reality. So that's what we have to do. Now, if I stay in the third dimension, I'm going to have to compromise. And I could choose to do that. But I realize that the reason why my higher self, has manipulated the scenario so that I'm in the scenario I'm in is so that I would become consciously aware that I have two choices. I can either compromise and have, some of what I want and be, ultimately not all that happy, or I can have everything I want, but the only way that I'm going to have everything I want is if this third dimensional world is destroyed and recreated. And based on the things that I saw, which I'm not going to harp on about, but based on the things that I saw when I came back, I'm now in a mindset of, I'm coming for the elites. Nothing can stop me. Nothing can save them. And the way that I am going to take them out is simply by meditating. And that's what these live guided interdimensional meditations are. I've come to find out. I stumbled into it. And then I started teaching it online. But when we came together as a group and we started doing these interdimensional meditations to bring the solar flash event, the world started changing. Not only that, but every time we would do it, there would be huge solar storms that would hit the Earth. And then all kinds of things would change in the narrative. The 3D consensus started shifting and changing, and the powers that be kept on backpedaling, and they're still backpedaling. They're now admitting to many of the lies they've been telling us. And it's just the beginning. And the light beings have said, you can do this. Keep going. Keep doing it. If you keep doing these meditations, the world is going to change. Everything is going to change. And so it's not enough for me now just to compromise and be semi-okay, because I know that that won't last. If I learn to just be okay with what I have here, you know, and it's not my complete total fantasy desire, but I can sort of make it work. You know, the thing is that the dark forces have deliberately sought out to wind up this Ponzi scheme that we call society. And they're going to start taking out more and more and more and more people. And, you know, the fact that there's a housing crisis, there's people who are working full time and they live in their cars because they can't afford to pay a mortgage or they can't afford to pay rent, and all kinds of other things going on that I'm not even going to get into. That's not going to stop. It's only going to increase. So the idea of compromising just to be okay, well, you're only going to be okay for a little while, and then pretty soon you're going to be right back where you were. So it's time for us to have a completely different mindset. And that mindset is question your reality and then change it. So let's see, where am I? So we're going to replace 3D with 5D, and the first one is we decide exactly and completely our perfect world without compromise. So I'm not saying that you have to, this is what most people do. When I tell them to fantasize about their perfect world, they start to think about what they think they can get. You know, and when I started doing this when I first came out with my service, you know, how to find your perfect career. And, you know, it's still a service out there. If you go to career.thunderwizard.com, you can purchase that, and I'll be happy to talk to you. And I've always been able to help everybody figure out within an hour absolutely what their perfect career is. Whether or not they have the chutzpah to follow through on it, that's a whole other deal. But I'm always able to do it. And whatever happens in the beginning is I say, well, let's have a fantasy. It's not real. It's just a fantasy. Let's fantasize about what it is you want. And what people start to do is they start to create a fantasy of a compromised world of what they think they can get away with. And I can always catch them when I do that. And I say, you know, that doesn't work. You're either in fantasy land where you have everything you want. If you want to be 100 feet tall, if you want to have 3 heads, if you know, whatever it is that you absolutely fantasize about having, that's your fantasy world. Or you're living in the real world where you have to work crappy jobs and do things you can't stand doing, and not making enough money and barely being able to function, and you're just okay if you can just afford to live in a crappy apartment somewhere. You know, nobody should ever have to live in crappy apartments, by the way. But people do. We live like cockroaches. We live like, you know, rats in a maze, and people are grateful to have a 1-bedroom crappy apartment in a, you know, really loud place in the middle of the city, and they think that they're okay. I mean, I can't live like that. So you're either living in real life, which is crappy, or you're in your fantasy world, which is completely impossible in our 3D reality. Or, like most people, you're in what I call compromise land. If I just had enough money, if I just had a better job, but is that really what you want? Is that what's going to make you happy? So in order for this to work, for us to replace 3D with 5D, the first thing that has to happen is that we need to decide exactly and completely our perfect world without compromise. And then commit your life to manifesting only your perfect 5D world. So let me tell you my perfect 5D world. I mean, my 5D world. There's no banks. There's no government. There's no borders. There's no countries. There's no illness. There's no violence. There's no competition. There's no starvation. There's no illness. There's no feeling of being devalued. We live in a world where everything we need manifests instantly, that nature is capable of giving us everything that we need. We live in a world where all of the technology that has been discovered and invented or hijacked by our 3D narcissistic overlords, and they do. There is. I can give you, I don't have time to do it, but I mean, there are links I could give you that prove to you that there is technology out there. Human created technology. It didn't come from outer space. A box about this big, and everyone can have it, that doesn't plug into anything and doesn't take up any energy. It literally creates enough energy. A box this big could power an entire city. We're talking about air conditioning, heating, electricity, pumps, everything you can imagine. Because all of the air, just the air around my head, there's enough free energy there to power an entire city. And every single one of us can have that in our home. It exists. That technology exists right now, but it's being kept from you because there's no money in it. And the people who have discovered it and have gone out and publicly tried to give it out, they magically end up dying or disappearing. So in the world that I live in, that's available to everybody. In the world that I live in, the anti-gravitational technology, that powers the deep state, black budget, anti-grav, the Tic Tacs and all the other things that they're pretending are UFOs, which are actually human-created vehicles. In the world I live in, everybody has access to that. They can have one of their own. They can have their own little flying saucer to go wherever the heck they want, anywhere in the world. In the world that I live in, everybody cares for each other and loves each other. In the world that I live in, there's enough energetic and spiritual advancement that we can see and feel each other. Nobody's ever discarded. Nobody's ever has to be alone or unable to take care of themselves, or nobody has to worry about being kicked out of countries or kicked out of society or being put in prison for not doing. Nobody has to worry about not having enough money to do anything. The fact that we live, the United States is a country where there are people starving to death and there's nobody coming to their aid simply because they don't have a thing called money. There are people that live in homeless camps, but they're not allowed to hunt, they're not allowed to fish, they're not allowed to farm. In fact, there are people in Oregon, this is going on in Oregon, where people who have just their homes, in the backyards of their homes, they have gardens where they, plant apples and, broccoli and spinach and whatever. And what's happening is that the government is coming and saying, you can't do that, and shutting them down. It's against the law. And when they say, why can't I grow food in my own backyard? Oh, because you're using too much water. I mean, crazy stuff like that. So these people want to take away your freedom to just be able to take care of yourself. They want to have all of the resources, and they want you to be completely dependent upon them. If they could get rid of oxygen, they would make it so that you had to pay for oxygen in the air. So that's the world that you live in if you choose to compromise. If you compromise, those are the people you're compromising with. And so we have to first decide that we're not going to compromise, and we're going to commit to only the life that our perfect 5D world is, and I mean absolutely perfect. Your absolute fantasy. If your fantasy is Skittles coming out of trees and flying unicorns that give you a kiss on the cheek as they fly by and whisper in your ear your greatest fantasy and how powerful you are, if that's how you want reality to be, that's your perfect reality. You have to keep that and don't compromise on that. And then I've got lists here. The 3D Earth is run by banking cartels' concept of debt and social credit. Everything functions on that. The entire world is completely run by this idea of money and social credit. You know, we talk about, oh, China has this social credit score. Well, we have it here too. It's called your credit score. I know because I'm running into it. I ran into some financial issues, and then I got kicked out of the country I was in, and I had to come up with thousands of dollars out of nowhere, which meant I used my credit cards. My credit cards got, completely maxed out and tanked. And guess what? I'm now getting all of these notifications that my credit score has taken a big dive, which means what? If I go to rent someplace, they're going to look at my credit score. Oh, you can't, your credit score is bad. Yeah, but here's some cash. Well, I don't care about that. Your credit score says I can't rent to you. I work for this real estate company, and they say your credit score has to be a certain amount. This is called social credit. And this is how 3D is functioning. It's run by the banking cartel's concept of debt and social credit. And the power that they have to manipulate what you do and where you go is fueled by fear and self-devaluation. Because never does it happen where you get told, oh, your credit score really stinks, and oh, by the way, we can't rent that to you, and oh, by the way, you can't get a car loan, and oh, by the way, you can't do this and you can't do that because your credit score is so bad. Never do you respond to that news by feeling good about yourself. You never feel worthy or valuable. The message in that says, we don't care whether you're a person or whether you exist or whether you have needs or whether you have rights. We only care if you are this number. You're just a number. And so if you die on the street, or if you can't pay your bills in the hospital and you're kicked out onto the sidewalk, which happens every freaking day, then you're nothing to us. You're only something to us if you have this thing called money. And oh, by the way, we're the banking cartel, and we print money whenever we want it, and we keep it away from the people we don't want to have it, and we have designed it to use to control you. And oh, by the way, money doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. It's not connected to anything real anymore. It's not connected to gold or silver. In fact, we want to create this thing called digital currency, which means it's completely made up, and we can totally control it, and we can have access to it whenever we want. And so that means that you're just a number to us. And if we want to get rid of people, we'll get rid of people. That's the 3D Earth. It's run by the banking cartel's concept of debt and social credit, fueled by fear and self-devaluation. What is 5D Earth on the other side, the right side of the screen? It's manifested by autonomous desires. Let me talk to you about that. That doesn't sound very touchy-feely. But autonomous. Autonomous is a word that means self-determined. So unlike the third dimension where your desires are completely meaningless, in fact, who hasn't been told by parents or teachers, it doesn't matter what you want. It matters, be something of value to society. Get out of this, you're in this dreamland. Oh, you want to be an artist. Oh, you want to be an actor. Oh, you want to be a musician. Well, grow up and get out of your selfish, childish, fantasies and get in the real world. Well, what is unreal about wanting to be, as an example, a creative person? What is unreal about that? There's nothing unreal about that. It doesn't make rich, sociopathic people money, unless, you happen to be Madonna or something like that, and then that's a whole other subject in and of itself. But you get where I'm going with that. So autonomous desires means the desires within you. So unlike the third dimension, which is fueled by oppressive outside arbitrary ideas like money and credit scores, power, fame, which have nothing to do with you, your essence. The fifth dimension is fueled completely by your internal desires that bring you joy. The more that you tap into the things that give you joy, the more that you tap into your own fulfillment, your own happiness, that is what empowers the fifth dimension. If you were to try and take third dimensional values and you were to shift up to the fifth dimension, you would immediately, you would phase out and you would drop back down to the third dimension. Because that frequency, it's impossible to be in that frequency and not be operating from a place of self-love and self-empowerment. Now, what is the difference between self-love and narcissism? Because people think that narcissists are in love with themselves. It's not true. Narcissists actually hate themselves. They hate themselves so much that they can't function unless they see you in the misery that they are constantly experiencing. That's why narcissists abuse you. That's why serial killers kill people. They do it because they act out on other people the feelings that they have towards themselves, which is self-murder. So in order to survive that feeling of wanting to destroy themselves, they project it on the world and they kill others. So that's what abusers do. Anybody that's abused you at all, for any reason, judged you for any reason, including me. I catch myself every day. I'm constantly analyzing, when I judge somebody, I go, that must be how I feel about myself. And lately, there have been a lot of people coming and, saying the craziest, weirdest things on the channel. They've been, criticizing me for the craziest things and judging me for the weirdest things. And now I go, oh, that's interesting. And I say, they haven't asked, so I don't say anything. But I say to myself, oh, so that's how that person feels about themselves. And so that only works in the third dimension. In the fifth dimension, to be in the fifth dimension means that you operate from your own experience of self-love, self-empowerment, and when, unlike the narcissist who is incapable of empowering other people, while looking as though they're giving to themselves, which it's not really what's happening. When you truly give to yourself, it expands your ability to give to others. And in fact, when you give to yourself, you make other people happy. And what you've noticed if you're doing the interdimensional meditations is that when you do something that empowers you, you will find immediately the light beings begin to clap and thank you. They thank you for doing something that empowered you. Because how you treat yourself is how you're going to treat others. This is the golden rule, right? Don't do anything to other people that you wouldn't want them to do to you. Well, that's kind of, we're looking at it backwards. Flip it the other way around. Always give to yourself what you want, and you will always give to other people what they want. You won't be thinking about what they can do for you. You will be thinking, it feels really good when I give to myself the things that I really need and I want. What does that person really need and want? Forget about what I want for them or what I want to give to them. What do they want? Oh, they want this thing. I wouldn't want that, but you know what? That makes them happy. So I'm going to give that to them. And you teach people to do that. So the fifth dimension runs by autonomous desires, self-empowered desires, as opposed to the banking cartel's concept of debt and social credit, which is I have to hate myself and then meet the needs of some sociopathic, company or corporation that needs me to go and make widgets for 40 hours a week and give myself carpal tunnel syndrome or whatever. Fifth dimension doesn't work like that. The fifth dimension is fueled by trust and mutual nurturing as opposed to being fueled by fear and self-devaluation. The whole idea of money creates fear. Because if you don't have money, you can't survive. Our ancestors, before there was such a thing as money, they didn't think about that. They lived in this earth. They called it their mother. And their mother provided everything for them. Hunter-gatherers, the reason why people were hunter-gatherers for so many thousands of years is because it worked. They didn't think that they were without anything. They only worried about what they could carry. They only worried about how many animals they needed to survive the next, maybe this winter at best. They never took more than what they needed because it was burdensome. killing 2 buffalo when all you need is 1. Well, 2 buffaloes are a lot harder to carry than 1. There's plenty of buffalo out there. We'll get another one later. But the idea of fear, when there's this idea that you won't have enough money, all of a sudden you have to become rich. And there are people that are billionaires and trillionaires. They can't possibly spend the money that they have. And they have no desire to give it to other people who don't have it. How sick do you have to be? I don't know about anybody else, but I can only drive 1 car at a time. I can only sit in 1 chair at a time. I can only sleep in 1 bed at a time. I don't need more than that. I can only eat 1 meal at a time, But a lot of people are like that, but billionaires have so much money. They can't even, and they want more and more and more and more. Well, that tells you something. It tells you something. It's fear. The fear that at some point it's not going to be enough. I mean, to be afraid to have, hundreds of thousands of dollars at least. Let's just go down there. Imagine having hundreds of thousands of dollars and then being worried you don't have enough money. That's just insanity. Having $20 and worrying that you don't have enough money, that's a normal fear. But to be rich and be worried, to need more than what you have, something's broken. That's the 3rd dimension. The 5th dimension, we operate from trust and mutual nurturing. So instead of what we're being told, which is that you have to fight for everything that you want, you have to compete, you have to be better than the next person, otherwise, you're going to get left out. The 5th dimension doesn't function like that. The 5th dimension says, I want to know what's uniquely beautiful about you. You're the best possible you there is. There isn't anybody that can even come close to you. In fact, the universe can't exist without you. You're so unique and irreplaceable. Whatever it is you do, big or small, it doesn't matter. You are an integral part of everything. So how can I nurture that? That's the 5th dimensional mindset. So at the bottom here, we need to adopt a fearless warrior commitment to intend 3D destruction. This is what I mean by this. This is the mindset I have now, because I realize now there is no compromise. The 3rd dimension is a failed system. It is a failed system that cannot function. It is destined for destruction. It's either going to destroy itself or it's going to be destroyed from a higher dimensional level. But, to attach yourself to a sinking ship, it's a sinking ship. And to try and, pilot a ship that's going underwater, to sail back home, it's time to get in another ship. It's time to get in the rowboat. Time to get out. So I'm coming for the elites. Nothing can stop me and nothing can save them, because what I've come to find out is that I've been told for the past 2 years that I have the ability in my meditations to change everything in reality. It's taken me 2 years to just begin to accept that reality, which is why we're doing these live guided interdimensional meditations at least twice a week now. Because I want to change it. Even if I don't think I believe it, even if I don't think it's possible, I can't deny what happens when we do these meditations. Despite all of the intense things that happen internally and personally, externally life is changing. Reality is changing. So I'm completely committed to adopting a fearless warrior commitment to intend the destruction of the 3rd dimension. So I want you to get comfortable with the idea of looking at where you want to compromise. Well, if I just had this amount of money, and if I just had this, and if I just had that, it would all be okay. Yeah, everything's falling apart, nothing's perfect, but as long as I just have my little thing, and as long as I have my car and my streaming services, and as long as I have enough food for me, I don't care that everybody's dying in the Middle East, or that everybody's starving to death in these other countries, or that other people are being killed and destroyed, or that even people in my own society, that there are people that are dying on the street street and can't find a home even though they're working full time. That stuff doesn't bother me. I'm just going to worry about me. I compromised. Well, that means eventually you're going to be the next one. So we don't live in a safe. This third dimension isn't safe for humans anymore. It's not safe for human consumption. So we have to take a deliberate warrior attitude of no compromise, destruction of the third dimension. So that means we have to die to our attachments to the third dimension and believe that we deserve the fantasies, because that's what they are right now, the fantasies of the fifth dimension. So adopt fearless warrior commitment to intend 3D destruction and simultaneous 5D manifestation. Regular group interdimensional meditations accomplish this. So I'm doing both at the same time. When I'm doing these meditations, I am actively sending energy to completely destroy the dark force elite infrastructure. That is going on in my mind. I'm imagining them completely losing their infrastructure, losing their power, losing their influence, losing everything that they use to control and stay hidden. I am actively intending that all of the lies come out so that the average person cannot escape the reality of how they've been lied to on every single level in ways I can't talk about yet on YouTube, but I guarantee you will start coming up. Already has, by the way, already started coming up on YouTube and mainstream media. And at the same time, I'm imagining that perfect world where I live in complete harmony with my surroundings. I'm never worried about resources because the earth is my mother. She's my friend. I have a relationship with her. We connect. And whatever I need, she can provide for me. Right now, the dark forces don't want you to have that, which is why when Christianity came into Europe and started wiping out the old religion, the first thing they did was they attacked people who worshipped Mother Earth. If you did that, it became, they were worshiping Jezebel. They were worshiping, the devil. Places where people used to go to worship the earth, springs that came out of the ground, those became known as devil worship, places of evil. So the truth is that Mother Earth is perfectly capable of providing everything for everybody. But the dark forces want to control everything. Why do you think they're buying up all the real estate? Why do you think Jeff Bezos wants to put 1 trillion people in space? There aren't 1 trillion people on planet Earth, but he wants to put 1 trillion people in space. That means he wants to put everybody that's on planet Earth up in space, because then he can control you. And what's that mean? You gotta work. You gotta do slave work for him. He hasn't said that. I can't prove to you that's what his thought process is. But that's just the logical outcome of putting 1 trillion people in space and getting them off of the planet. And all of the other billionaires that are buying up all of the land, all of the farmland, they're buying up all the real estate. They're buying up everything, so that you can't have access to any resources. So that's it, my friends. Decide completely and exactly what your perfect world is without compromise. And then show up with me to do these interdimensional meditations. So my vision is to have hundreds, thousands, millions of people doing these things together. So please put that in your meditations as well. Put that in your intentions, that my channel goes viral. It's your channel too. That our channel goes completely viral. So that there's millions of people. And that the word goes around all over the place, so that even if the algorithm tries to stop it, nothing can stop it. Because the one thing I know is true. I've now proven this to myself, and I hope that you can prove it to yourself through your own experience. But what I've proven to myself is that when I go into my astral body, there is nothing that is more powerful. And that when there's more than one of us doing this together, and we're in our astral bodies and we're intending something, the Dark Force elite have no defense against that. They cannot stop this. And it doesn't matter what they do. No matter what they do, even if they take somebody's life, God's forbid, if some warrior who meditates, they took their life away, all that would happen is they would then have complete, even more power to intend and take away their power. So there's nothing they can do. And that's why I've said, I'm coming for the elites. Nothing can stop me. Nothing can save them. So no matter what they do to me, they can't take away my ability to meditate and to go into the astral realm. No matter what they do to me physically, nothing can stop me from doing that. And I am the most powerful when I'm in my astral body, and so are you. So, again, that's it for today. Please share this with as many people as possible. And again, if you want to, while we're still in 3D, if you want to support this channel, if you're just one of those people especially that comes and listens to the videos and that's all you do, just know that there is something that you could do. Because again, every single person who's subscribed for free at the thunderwizard.com site, if every single one of them was subscribed at just a few dollars a month, I would never have to worry about anything. And you're getting something out of it. If you keep coming back and it's valuable to you, I encourage you to give back a little bit. But I hope you go further than that and you become selfish and you want to gain the powerful practices that are available, which you can only be done if you go to the shop and you purchase the teachings that are there, or if you subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong or one of the other places and get some real power. Because that's all I'm here to do, is to give you the tools so that you can get into that very powerful state with your astral body and do what we are doing, which is we're changing the world with our intentions. That's it, my friends. I love you all. Thank you so much. Please remember that you are the most important being that has ever lived, and that the universe was created solely for your pleasure, and that the only thing that matters is that you exist. Your value comes from one thing and one thing only, and that is your conscious awareness. So with that, I bow before you and I thank you for allowing me to live in your universe that you have created. And I look forward to seeing you again. If we don't shift out of this 3D and end up in 5D, we won't have to make these videos anymore. We'll be doing other stuff. But until then, if that doesn't happen, I wish you all the best. Please take very good care of yourselves. I will see you all very soon. Thank you so much.